In the early morning hours at 02:14 local time, 4 Ukrainian strike drones launch one after another into the darkness toward a Russian BE-200, what should have been a routine operation. Unbeknownst to the Ukrainian operators, Russian forces have been monitoring this tree line for days. Within moments, grade coordinates race up the chain of command, and mortar rounds begin bracketing the launch field. The crew hastily collapses the rail and flees as dirt erupts around them. All 4 drones climb into the night sky. The challenging part of their mission now begins. The formation descends toward the deck and turns southeast, hugging the terrain as it traces a path toward the coast. Flying so low, they vanish into the darkness of the surrounding fields. The camera captures furrows rushing past mere meters below. Along a tree line positioned along their route waits a Russian fire group commander who has worked this corridor before. He knows these drones traverse here slowly, at low altitude, and with predictable patterns, timing their passage with practiced precision. 2 hours earlier, he killed his truck engine where the valley narrows and settled into position. He is not waiting alone. 5 additional trucks lie concealed along the same passage, spaced several kilometers apart, creating a gauntlet of firepower that every drone formation must traverse. 4 soft signatures now cross his sight picture, and he likes what he sees. The lead truck opens fire. Tracers claw toward the front drone, stitching across the camera lens barely a hand's width away. The drone does not react. No pilot sits in the cockpit to flinch. It cannot return fire either. That gun belongs to a mobile fire group, a pickup truck armed with a heavy machine gun or shoulder-launched missile, sitting exactly where Russia knows these drones will pass. Speed traps, positioned directly on the routes traffic always follows. The FP2 makes for an easy target. What has just lifted off that rail is the Firepoint FP2, Ukraine's deep strike workhorse, boasting a 200-kilometer range with a 105-kilogram warhead, cruising at 150 kilometers per hour, barely faster than highway speed, roughly equivalent to traveling from Chicago to Indianapolis on a single tank. Priced at approximately $55,000 per airframe. Inexpensive enough that Kyiv launches 4, expecting to lose 3. Low and easy to track by eye, especially this close to the front, a second truck picks up the formation and adds its fire from the opposite direction. Then a third. The drones weave between tracer streams, jinking as much as their sluggish airframe permits. One round clips the tail fin off the trailing drone. It wobbles, dips toward the earth, then crawls back onto course despite the damaged control surface. This corridor has become a shooting gallery. Truck 4 illuminates them from a ridge. The formation now takes fire from 3 directions. The front drone's camera washes white each time a tracer burns past the lens. For several tense seconds, the math appears simple. 6 guns, 4 slow drones, no passage through. Then the lead truck erupts. A fireball climbs from the tree line where the gun position stood. The tracers from that location cease immediately. 3 seconds later, a second explosion follows. Truck 2, working the formation from the opposite direction, vanishes in a flash of orange. Behind the ridge, a third truck catches the next missile and disintegrates. 3 destroyed in under 10 seconds. It turns out a particular category of drone never appears on any Russian radio scanner. The fire group commanders learned this difficult lesson tonight. The small drones responsible for that destruction are the escorts, now finally on station. They arrived late intentionally. These are fiber-optic FPV quadcopters, tethered to a hair-thin glass cable that spools out behind them as they travel. Nothing about their operation touches the radio spectrum. No jammer in Russia's arsenal can even nudge them. Their commands travel through glass. Yet that same cable presents a critical vulnerability. Thread it through the cloud of shrapnel still raining over the launch site, and the fiber severs. A severed fiber sends the drone plummeting from the sky instantly. So the escorts could not drive straight through the launch zone, trailing the strikers. They had to loop wide around the falling steel, then extend the cable to catch up with the formation. That detour is precisely why the strikers spent that extended minute alone in the open, absorbing fire with no one to answer for them. That glass tether purchases the singular thing that matters in jammed territory. A control link nothing in the air can sever. Yet it demands a price the FP2s desperately wish they did not have to pay. Reach. The spool carries only limited fiber. Approximately 20 kilometers from the front, the escorts reach the end of their string, peel away, and turn back toward home. This creates a problem. From this point onward, the only connection between pilot and 4 drones operating deep inside Russia is a satellite dish mounted on an aircraft orbiting above the bay. A solitary thread, and the Russians are already hunting for it. 40 miles back over the middle of the bay, that thread hangs from an aircraft maintaining station. A 5th drone flies slow circles through the darkness. No warhead occupies its frame, only a Starlink dish installed where explosives sit on the others. It can only orbit and relay, unarmed, sluggish, with no capacity to escape danger. Control inputs descend toward the strikers. Camera feeds rise back up. Should a Russian fighter locate it, or a surface-to-air missile reach it, all 4 strikers go blind instantaneously. The most critical aircraft over the bay tonight is one that cannot harm anyone. Lose it, and the entire raid ends silently. 4 drones wandering off into darkness with nobody home to guide them. Traveling deep over occupied territory, the 4 drones punch into a wall of electronic noise, the kind that reduces most drones to confetti scattered across a field. These 4 fly straight through without hesitation. Watch how level the horizon remains on the cockpit feed while jamming washes over them. Here lies the answer to their steadiness. These drones do not rely on GPS at all. Instead, each one navigates the complete route using its own internal map, tallying every turn it executes. Similar to how you could navigate to your own kitchen in total darkness because you have walked it countless times. Russia floods this entire front with GPS jamming, the simplest and most economical method for eliminating a drone from the sky. Tonight, the jamming bounced right off them. However, something else begins malfunctioning. All 4 video feeds stutter simultaneously, tearing, freezing, going black for half a second. The pilot moves the stick, and the drones respond a beat delayed, then commence sliding northward, drifting toward open water. In a location nowhere near the front, individual pilots operate their respective drones. No more complex than a father managing the barbecue, monitoring his phone and pretending to follow his wife's story about her coworker. Yet the stakes prove considerably steeper. When the feeds tear, he is not watching a malfunction. He is observing 4 aircraft deep inside Russia begin wandering off at the identical moment. He has mere seconds to respond before they vanish permanently. Many kilometers behind the front, a Russian electronic warfare operator executes something sophisticated. He has spent enough time at this task to perform it effectively. He has watched these drones shrug off his jamming for weeks and grasps the technique now. An inferior operator would continue battering the satellite connection and filing reports about a system that refuses to fail. This operator possesses sharper instincts. The satellite link sits beyond his reach. The signal travels straight upward, and no ground jammer shouts with sufficient force to intercept it. Thus, he stops hammering the target he cannot compromise. He pursues the element he can, and he has located it. Should you observe the dish on that relay aircraft above the bay, you are looking at the trick that enables this entire operation and, simultaneously, its critical weakness. These drones operate through Starlink, the same American satellite constellation that delivers Sunday Night Football to screens in rural Iowa. 6,000 satellites positioned overhead, every single one launched from Florida or California, and every one of them presently providing combat support over the Sea of Azov tonight. Its antenna points directly upward at the satellites circling above. No ground jammer along the coast shouts with sufficient intensity to reach a signal heading into space. Comparable to attempting to block a telephone call by yelling at someone's house, when the call already traveled to a tower and never moved laterally to you. So the operator ceased yelling at the house. He pursued the singular wire he could reach, the short radio hop from the relay aircraft down to the drones. An ordinary signal, wide open to anyone directing a jammer the proper direction. This is what he just identified and what he presently floods. If that hop remains suppressed for more than several seconds, 4 drones lose all hearing over Russia and wander aimlessly until fuel depletes. The feeds keep tearing while the drones slide farther over the water, and the pilot possesses one remaining option: push them downward at the ground, not away from it. He divides the formation, and the 2 groups select vastly different routes inbound. 2 drones descend into the Ya River Valley. It flows directly into the bay adjacent to the base. The remaining 2 drop onto Taganrog Bay itself, skimming the surface so low the camera catches spray coating the lens, hugging the shoreline the entire way. There exists no tolerance for error down here. Drop just a meter and a wave swallows the drone. Climb a meter and a gunner obtains a clean shot. The pilot threads this passage by hand on a feed half a second delayed from real time. The feed returns, sharp, clear, and the jammer has lost all 4 at once. That descent purchased everything. A ground jammer can only saturate what it can observe in a direct line. The moment a drone drops into a river valley or below a coastline, ridge lines and the curve of the earth consume the signal completely. Similar to ducking below a fence so the man with the flashlight cannot illuminate you with his beam. The inland jammer lost them down low, yet the relay aircraft above the bay still enjoyed a direct line to all 4, so the connection persisted. It functioned perfectly, exactly what the Russians anticipated. Days prior, that identical jamming signature revealed something valuable to a Russian air defense officer. He had observed jammed drones over this stretch descend into the same river valley to take cover, mission after mission, without deviation. Thus, he stopped considering the valley their sanctuary. He started treating it as their funnel point. If these drones ever got jammed at this location, they would execute precisely what they just did. Therefore, he positioned a team down there with orders to wait. On the valley floor, one soldier has lain shivering beside a launch tube for nearly 2 nights, observing a single patch of sky. Nothing to expose him. No radio, no radar or anti-radiation missile to pursue. Just a man, a tube, and a thermos gone cold many hours ago. The worst camping expedition imaginable in Russia. And nobody even brought the marshmallows. He detects the drones before he observes them. A faint lawnmower hum bouncing off the valley walls. Then a silhouette, low and slow against the stars. one opportunity before they pass him. He raises the tube. A streak of fire explodes up from the tree line along the river and strikes one of the Valley drones head-on. One flash. Finished. An igla is what a single soldier carries when he wants to eliminate something low in the sky with nothing but heat. A shoulder-launched missile. The SA-18 Grouse lifts away from one man's shoulder in seconds. That is the device that turned the low root into a snare. Radio carries no significance to it. Radar holds no bearing either. It hunts pure heat. An FP2's modest engine, running hot against the cold night air above the river, lights up that seeker like a porch light, attracts every insect in the region. Reaches speeds approaching Mach 1.7, effective to 5½ kilometers, roughly equivalent to the walk from the White House to the Capitol and back. The FP2 possesses no defense against it. No flares, no countermeasures, no capacity to mislead a missile off its scent. One warhead contacts the engine, and a quarter of the strike package becomes scattered across a riverbed. The surviving Valley drone banks sharply through the riverbed and emerges on the opposite side alone. 3 drones remain now. No escort. The most heavily defended ring still ahead. Still just one attempt at it. Their formation has fragmented permanently. One drone crawling out of the river alone. 2 more skimming the bay miles to the south. None able to observe the others. The path that evaded the jammer is the same path that presented a drone to the man waiting in the grass. Comparable to selecting the short checkout line, only to discover it is short because the register is malfunctioning. 3 drones, no escorts, sufficient fuel for one pass and nothing beyond. Russia's finest short-range air defense has remained vigilant on the far shore throughout the night, oriented directly at the only corridor the 3 survivors must traverse. The 3 drones converge above the water and turn toward the target, a Russian naval airfield at Yank on the far shore of the Sea of Azov. 3 drones abreast, throttles prepared. The coast finally materializes out of the darkness ahead. The pilot has computed the fuel calculation repeatedly, and it produces the same result each time. Fuel for the run, nothing for error. One pass through 200 kilometers, roughly the distance from Atlanta to Chattanooga, of fire, jamming an ambush behind them, and everything rests on the following 90 seconds on the live feed. The objective slides into view. ABE 200. Tonight. The launch rail, the escorts, the river valley, the drone in pieces behind them, culminates to one jet, sitting there and still beneath a net. 3 minutes of flight away, the solitary valley survivor drops low and level for the run, and the approach grows. A net strung low over the apron obstructs the lower portion of its flight path, and the only access to the jet requires climbing up and over the top. That web over the apron is anti-drone netting, and it is what compelled the climb. Russia drapes it low, above the parked aircraft and the fuel tanks, to catch small drones by the propellers as they arrive low. A fishing net designed for minnows, and most evenings it succeeds. Against a warhead this large, the net proves nearly ineffectual. Yet forcing that climb constitutes the complete objective. The moment the drone rises to clear it, it emerges from the terrain that masked it right into the open. On the apron, a crew has remained awake and ready the entire time, disciplined, composed. They have endured a dozen false alarms tonight. Weapon prepared, eyes on the dark water, and every member of that crew comprehends what a drone above the net signifies. 100 rehearsals for this precise shot. When it materializes, nobody hesitates. They observe the drone emerge from the darkness, and they fire. A missile screams upward from the launch vehicle, levels out in the air, and locks onto the climbing drone. The launch vehicle on that apron is a TORM-2DT, NATO code SA-15, Gauntlet. The designation fits. A tracked launcher carrying 16 ready missiles that fires them straight up at Mach 2.8, active radar guided, signifying it transmits into the sky and follows whatever transmits back. Warhead comprised of 14.8 kilograms of fragmentation, range 12 kilometers distant, roughly equivalent to Houston downtown to Fort Worth stockyards. 0 to firing in under 5 seconds from detection. Runs 4 simultaneous intercept channels. It operates under one critical limitation. Commit to a shot and it holds that target until impact. A handful of seconds in which nothing else on that part of the sky receives a clear view. Similar to a batter who has already swung, committed to that pitch. No opening at the one right after it. If that TOR gets a clean second shot, this pass ends, and the BE-200 rolls back into its hangar at sunrise. Presently, it has committed itself totally to the singular drone climbing in front of it. From the instant that missile departed the rail, the crew owns the sky for approximately 4 seconds. Hit the climber, prepare for whatever arrives next. 4 seconds constitutes the entire contest. The drone climbing above the net is caught off guard. It was never expected to survive this stage. Sacrificing it was the strategy. It functioned as the Matador's cape, and the TOR charged it precisely as the plan demanded it. 2 more approached, low above the water, the complete distance. So close to the surface, their own rotor wash kicked a fine line of spray off the bay, and the Russians never detected them at all. Now they rise off the bay, different direction, wrong segment of the sky entirely for a launcher already committed to the bait. 2 drones, 1 opening. A few seconds while the TOR looks the wrong direction. One rides that gap straight down onto the launcher, and the TOR erupts and goes dark before its own missile can even reach the decoy, still climbing above the net. The bait endures. That had been the strategy all along. Sacrifice one drone to purchase the others their few seconds, and allow the TOR to win the fight it always was going to win, against the wrong target. The net is simply a net now, with nothing left behind it to prevent what comes next. Russia constructed an air defense that can handle 1 drone at a time, then observe 2 more walk in from its blind spot. Somewhere, a TOR manual was quietly being revised. 2 drones lined up on the Rarest aircraft in Russian naval service. With nothing left on that field to stop them, the first of the pair angles down and impacts the BE-200, clears the netting, pierces through the upper fuselage. 105 kilograms of warhead detonates inside the cabin, and its own jet fuel ignites a secondary that whites out the camera for a complete second. When the image clears, that BE-200 is split open along its spine. 1 wing folded beneath it, flame spreading along the fuel it was never supposed to discharge. For a moment, the entire apron glows. Confirmed, the BE-200 is destroyed. Russia operated only a small number of these in its navy, one of fewer than 10 Beriev BE-200 Altair aircraft ever constructed anywhere. A turbofan amphibious jet that launches from a runway or can land directly on open water. Cruises at 700 kilometers per hour with a range of 3,850 kilometers, roughly equivalent to New York to Denver. Hauls 12 tons of rescue gear for a complete search team to a downed crew in open ocean. the one platform in Russia's naval inventory that patrols the coastline nothing else can access. Its engines were fabricated in Ukraine prior to the war. Russia cannot simply construct another one. The production facility does not exist. A little like getting robbed using your own wallet. The final drone, the solitary survivor of the river valley, banks over and lines up on the helo, positioned beside the wreckage. A Kamov Ka-27, Russia's principal ship-based submarine hunter. The helicopter that deploys sonar to find boats concealing themselves beneath the surface and completes the strike. If you appreciated watching this Russian aircraft explode, then view this video of a drone eliminating a Russian helo in flight. See you next time.